Hi everybody, it's Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world, and today is Tuesday, October 18th, and this is Flosstube number 100, and unfortunately I don't have anything big planned for number 100. I would have loved to have come up with something, but I've been traveling. So basically the entire month of September I was living out of a suitcase, and I've been back in the States for a couple of weeks and had a lot of things going on, and I'm just settling back in, and I haven't had time. I haven't had time to even think about it or plan anything. So no 100 Flosstube extravaganza today, but I have a lot of really great stuff to show you today. So I've got a couple of things I finished, and I've got some previous finishes. But what I want to do for previous finishes, instead of showing you what I finished a year ago this time, like I usually do, I want to show you previous finishes that have been gifted to my mother, because I am in my mom's craft room right now. So I am back in Kansas for a couple of weeks. My parents live in rural Kansas. They live about like 40 minutes south of Kansas City proper. So I'm at their house, and so I have all of this stuff that I've stitched for my mother in the past. So I'm going to show you in no particular order. I'm going to show you that first. So but first things first, I'm going to show you one thing I did not stitch, but I've talked about before, and why I started cross stitching. So this is, it's a little dusty. This was my sister's finish, maybe one of her only finishes. So this was a dimensions kit. I don't know, it's probably called the Lighthouse, something like that. And I recall my sister stitching this for years, for many years. And I think I was in high school, and she is 4.5 years older than me. So she was I remember she was working night shift at the nursing home, and she started this as like something to do to help her keep awake when things were really quiet and really slow. And so I just remember her working on this for ages. And that's when I decided I wanted to try cross stitch. So this was my sister's previous finish. It's framed. I think my mom went and got it framed professionally. I actually really like this frame. It's kind of that old barnwood, reclaimed wood. It's nice. And you know, this is a lot. I mean, this was a lot of stitches. This is basically like a Haid. Well, now that I look, okay, so the white clouds are not stitched, so that's nice. And then all of this sky is a half stitch or a tent stitch. And then the white in the lighthouse actually isn't stitched either. That's just the Ada. So, and then all this water is half stitched, tent stitch. So actually, now that I'm looking at it, like, I mean, I'm still very impressed, but I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't that bad. I thought it was full coverage, but she actually didn't stitch any of the white. No, but it looks really good. It really does. So that's a previous finish. Probably not something I would ever stitch, but it's very nice. Okay, so things I have stitched for my mother. They're all piled up behind me, so pardon my reaching. Again, in no particular order. So this is a pattern from the Fat Quarter Shop. It's So Emma is like their design company, but it's sold through the Fat Quarter Shop, and it's produced by the Fat Quarter Shop, but it's called It's So, like SEW, it's So Emma. And this one, oh gosh, I can't think of, the name's not coming to me. Yeah, I got nothing. I cannot remember the title. If I remember, I'll put it in here. But I stitched this, I think last year, year before last maybe, and it was a stitch along, and this is a 36 count picture this plus, and I think the color is Zephyr, I think, but I'm not I'm not sure. It's just a pale blue, very subtle modeling. And I stitched the entire stitch along, but then I left off the very bottom row because I just, it was every week you would do a row, and it was a lot of stitching sometimes. This is denser than it looks. So I just didn't have that last row in me. The last row is really cute. It's like stacks of fat quarter fabrics. Really cute, but very bigger. I think they were about this size. And I thought it looked fine this way. It was super cute, and I just didn't have that last row in me, so I didn't stitch it. And then I finished this as a little pillow. So it fits in the craft room very well. I've also sewed this I stitched this pattern. This is a Blackbird Designs, and Blackbird Designs is actually local to Kansas City. Barb and Alma both lived in Kansas City, and Alma lives, I believe, in Colorado now with her adult child and grandchildren, but maybe splits her time still. So I think she's still in the area quite often. I don't know her personally, and that's just, I don't know, I've picked that up here and there. Anyway, regardless, I wish I had known about Blackbird Designs 20 years ago when I lived here, and I could have bought all the kits from the LNS. But anyway, this is from the Sewing Club booklet that came out, I think it was Market 2020, and this was literally every project. I mean, you can't go wrong with Blackbird. Everything they do is phenomenal, but every project in the Sewing Club booklet is so good. It's just such a wonderful booklet, such a great value for all the patterns you get for that in that one. But anyway, this one was called In My Garden, and I stitched this on 36 count. Picture this plus ale, 1 strand over 2. And I think what I did for the flosses is I probably used some of the called for, and then when I didn't have that particular thread, I grabbed like a color and cotton that looked the same, and you know, matched it up that way. So this turned out really cute. I need to stitch this for myself. And then I just finished it on this board, and I don't remember where I got this. It might have been, I don't know, probably Target, Dollar Days. They have a lot of good, like plain wood stuff like this that you can use for finishing. So that turned out really, really pretty. I really like that. I want that. This is a recent, I think this is the most recent thing I've gifted. So this was also a Fat Quarter Shop. It's So Emma pattern. And this was, so, okay, I got my COVID booster today, but I don't think that's quite all of the reason I can't recall things. I also just can have like a really bad memory, but like I don't know if it's brain fog, but I'm not grabbing this. I have no idea what this was called. It was a stitch along this year. It was the spring of this Bloom Where You Are Planted. That's what it was called. It's So Emma, Bloom Where You Are Planted. And I stitched it with the called for like Classic Colorworks, but I swapped out the fabric. They did theirs on a fabric flare, but with like a chicken wire, kind of like really light chicken wire look to it. And this is a fabric flare 28 count, and it's just called Wood. And I just thought that could look, in my head, I thought it would look really good, and I think it turned out really good. So I'm glad about that. And then I just finished it on this frame that I've had in my stash forever, and it just fit right on there. And it's got this little, this is called something, but it's not coming to me. So my mom actually like hangs things from here, and it's on the wall like right here usually, but right here, but I took it down for the video. So there's that. Again, all the called for floss, but I switched the fabric out. This one, oh, this was a labor of love. And this one I do remember. It's Job's Tears by Paula Vaughn. So, you know, she did all of these confetti heavy, lots of blends, a ton of backstitch. So this pattern was, I mean, it was a lot of stitching, and it was a lot. It was a lot of work. It looks awesome. I mean, the effect you get from all those blends and backstitching is quite remarkable. I stitched this like exactly as charted with DMC, and it's on a 28 count even weave, like, or no, a linen, but just like a 28 count, probably antique white linen, maybe 32 count, I don't know. And the only change I made was I backstitched for Mom. I stitched this I wrote on the back of it, stitched April and May of 2018. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago that I stitched this for her. This also fits very well in her craft room. Okay, and then the last things I have. I think this might have been like one of the very first things I stitched for my mom. This is Stacy Nash. I believe it's called Spotted Chickens. It's one of, a lot of Stacy Nash's patterns will have like 2 small things in them. So this was one part of the pattern. Like if you get the Spotted Chickens pattern, there's actually even more than this. There's some good looking patterns in there, but this is, I filled this with those like plastic beans. So it's like, it's got some weight to it. It's got some heft. And I think if I were to redo this, I'd probably not do that because it's so heavy. It's like hard to even show it without it like just kind of collapsing. But I just finished this as a little pillow. And I think I think it was all the called for floss. And if I might have substituted, if I didn't have like quite exactly the right one, I might have grabbed something close. But that is the Spotted Chicken. I think it's called Spotted Chicken Pin Keep, maybe. And then, so that was either that or this was the first thing I ever stitched. Actually, I think this might have been the first thing I ever stitched for my mom. So this was Nikki's Creations, and I cannot remember the name of this pattern. It's not coming to me. But this is, Nikki charts, I think everything in DMC, at least everything that I can think of that I've stitched by her or that I own is charted in DMC, which I love that she does that because she still gets this really beautiful prim look, and she doesn't even use overdyed. She just used DMC. But she'll tend to use like the same type of colors, pretty often, but I like it. It's kind of it's her style. Like I can pick out her patterns immediately. So anyway, I stitched this, and then, it's on a 32 count linen, probably like it's a little bit, dusty. Like it looks like I don't think it's an overdye, but it's like, it's like a beige. It might be beige. And then I finished it as just this little pouch. And I remember I gifted my mother these Ginger scissors in this pouch because I had become, I don't think I was quilting yet, but I had gotten into crafting and stitching, and I realized that fabric scissors should not be used for other things. And I remembered when I was a kid, I would always take my mom's Gingers and cut construction paper, craft projects, plastic, everything. Like everything you should not cut with them. So I felt like I owed her a pair after all that time. So anyway, okay, so there is all of the previous finishes that have been gifted to my mother. I feel like there's even possibly 1 or 2 that I've missed. I like kind of walked through the room and grabbed what I could. I think she keeps them all in here, so I think I got them all, but I might have missed one. Oh well. So I finished a couple things. So like I said, pretty much almost all of September I was in the UK and Ireland. I had an amazing trip. I got to see so many things, and I have been posting travel vlogs on this channel, and so you've probably seen some of those pop up, and I'm trying to do just like each location and make like a short video, like here's my time in London, here's my time in Scotland, well, the several places in Scotland. Anyway, I still have a couple to post. I haven't posted Belfast and Northern Ireland. I haven't posted Dublin, and then back to London. So I've still got probably 2 or 3 videos to post, but I just felt like I really needed to get a stitching video up because it had been almost 2 months since you all have seen some stitching from me. So more travel vlogs will be going up probably within the next week, but these are, you know, from my travels 3 weeks ago. And anyway, so while I was traveling, I did get to stitch some, especially when we were traveling from city to city. We would take a bus or a train, and that was usually going to be like 2 or 3 hours. We took a flight from Glasgow to Belfast, and then a flight from Dublin to London. So I got some stitching there too. But I had brought, my plan had been to bring plastic canvas as like my primary stitching on my trip, because that's what I've been stitching in the car over the summer, and it's worked really well. You don't have to have a Q-snap, you don't have to have a hoop. It's just, it's a big pattern, easy to read, not very many colors. It's been a great travel project. But once I started this trip, I realized it's a little too big. The plastic canvas was a little unwieldy, especially when you're in like a narrow airplane seat. Like you don't want, you know, something this big that you're like elbowing people. So I ended up actually almost not stitching at all on my plastic canvas. And I was so glad that at literally the last second, like the night before we left, I threw in a couple of small kits from Shepherd's Bush. I have a few different kits, and these were just the 2 I grabbed. And I finished both of these on my travels. So these were just so perfect because I stitched in hand. They're like a little too small to even try to put in a hoop unless you have a really little one. So I just stitched them in hand, and they were just perfect. The perfect projects. I'm so glad I included those at the last minute. So the first one I finished was Autumn's Fright. So the Shepherd's Bush kit, now I haven't fully finished these yet, but the kit comes with the silk ribbon and beads to finish this pillow. You have to provide your own backing fabric, which is not a problem. So here is my finish of this. Now, Shepherd's Bush kits also include the fabric and the floss. And this one is a little bit of an overdyed and a little bit of DMC. So there's my finish of Autumn's Fright. Hopefully I'll be able to fully finish that and show you that soon. And then I finished the Creepy Pin Cushion. And again, this comes with the overdyed silk ribbon and the beads to finish this, but you do have to provide your own backing fabric, which I'm gonna raid Mom's fabric back here and see what I can find. So here's my finish of this. So I got 2 finishes while I was traveling, which was kind of nice. Let me show you the tiny bit. I was very content to work on those smalls. And really the only reason I started this plastic canvas was because I had finished those smalls and I didn't have anything else to stitch. So I got a very small start on the plastic canvas. So, you know, it's not huge. It's a maybe an 8 by 11, like it's like about the size of a sheet of paper. It's not huge. It's just a little big to stitch on an airplane, I think. So anyway, there's my little start of that. This is by Innocent Bones. I've got 3 plastic canvas kits from her. I haven't finished the other one, but it was so close to a finish that I didn't want to take that one because then I knew I would finish it and then I wouldn't have anything to work on. So I just brought like a brand new one. I'm going to flash you the design really quick because she doesn't include in the kit, she doesn't include like a a mock-up of the finish or a picture of the finish. So it looks like this. I don't think you can read that chart from where you are. So that was the little start I got on that. So okay, so this is the October Typography Club from Pine Needles. It's Pine Needles Quilt Shop, and they do their own stitching stuff too. And so I'll insert a picture of what their finish looks like. They finished theirs on a buttermilk basin clipboard, but I didn't have that. So I actually found this easel at Michael's, and it was really cheap. It was like maybe $5 or less. And this came as a kit. So it came with the Ada. You had to provide your own DMC, but it came with the Ada, and it came with the bat backing fabric here, and it came with the trim to make the ribbon. So I think it was either right under $20 or right around $15. So I thought it was pretty reasonable for everything it included, and it's stitched up really fast, and it is so cute. So I just finished mine on the easel instead of on the clipboard, but the clipboard finish is really cute. And they've done a pattern for every month. So the thought is that you can swap out on the easel every month and, you know, do like a monthly display. You can get this on their website as a digital download or as a physical kit if you want, you know, all the finishing that they have as well. I thought it was a really good value and really, really cute. Each month was really cute. So there's my previous finish from about a month ago. But I'm going to switch gears for 1 second and show you another finish that I didn't finish that I was gifted. Before I show you all of my works in progress. So, all right, I participated. Let me just grab this stuff. Heather from Link is My Homeboy on Flosstube and Instagram. She hosted a Halloween swap. She's actually hosting like a Christmas ornament swap right now as well. But she organized and set up and did all of like the legwork on getting this Halloween smalls exchange. And so mine, I was assigned my friend Andrea Stitchy Bookworm, and I showed that finish I think in my last video, and she's received that. So I stitched mine and sent it off, but the small I received was from a different person. So I got literally, this is so cute. I'm like obsessed with this. So the person who stitched for me was Laura, and she is on Instagram as I think she's on Instagram as Bookish Stitchery, but I know she's on Flosstube as Bookish Stitchery. She's a new Flosstuber. She only has 4 videos out. She's just getting started, and her videos are short and sweet, at least so far. So like, if you would like to go check Laura's channel out, you know, you could catch up those 4 videos really quick, because I think most of them are under 20 minutes. And so I will link that down below so you can go check out her channel and maybe subscribe and watch her. But she did such a great job with this small. So I believe this is a Wild Violet cross stitch pattern. I'm almost sure it is, and I had wanted to make it for myself, but now I don't have to. So she made me this little, it's so cute. Look at this. It's a little book. And then this is like a mattress. Is it called a mattress finish? It's like I can't even imagine how much work it was to sew this. And it's got like really cute fabric. So this is just fabric that's printed. So it's this little mattress finish, but look at this. So here's the front, which is awesome. And here's the binding, which is awesome. And then she stitched my name on the back. I love this. It is literally just like, I think it's so cute. It is adorable. She did such an amazing job. I can't believe all the finishing that this required. I would love to try that someday, but I'm kind of glad I don't have to try to finish something like that right away. So awesome. Like such a good swap. I'm so happy. And Heather did such a great job with like hosting and organizing that. She's amazing. And then Laura included a couple of like Halloween little extras, which I just want to show real quick because really cute. So she got me some Gentle Arts floss, Autumn and Black Crow. Definitely gonna be used. And then these little pins, I think I might put them in, so I might put them in this pillow. But she got me these cute little pins. These are so cute. So these are just another button. They have the cutest pins. It's just, When I was at Shepherd's Bush, they had like a million of these like pin sets from just another button company, and I wanted all of them. I wanted to buy all of them because they're so cute. And then she got me, I'm really excited about this. This is a Mill Hill kit, and I don't have this one, but I have almost bought this kit so many times, and I always talk myself out of it. Like I always like kind of throw it in my cart, and then when I'm trying to whittle down my cart because like, you know, it's a little too out of control, like I always like put this back and go like, I'll get it some other time. So I'm actually really excited that I got this, and it's really quite small, especially for a Mill Hill. Like this is pretty small, so I think I might be able to get this done like this year, this month, hopefully. So yeah, that was my package from Laura, and I think there was some Reese's too, but I already ate those. Like those are long gone. So such a great package to receive. So I'm just gonna like randomly drop this in because I'm talking about packages, and I know people have asked me before, like, how do I get packages? Because I don't, if anyone's not aware, I don't have like a physical address right now. I'm traveling and like living on the road. So generally, like, we're not planning terribly far in advance of where we will be, but I usually know at least like the next couple of weeks. And then we have some like big goals. So like I've known for a couple of months that I would be back here in Kansas in October. I didn't know like the exact dates, but I knew I was coming back here and probably staying for about 2 weeks. So I've had packages sent here, or I've told friends like to send stuff here. And then back in Colorado, my friend Alexis from Alexis My Amazing World on Instagram and Flosstube, she actually has been like my, what would you call it? Like my package mule. So I've had a bunch of stuff sent to Alexis, and she's like held on to it for me. And then when I'm checking back in Colorado, it's a great excuse for us to meet up and hang out. And then she brings me all my stuff. So, but I'm really not shopping much at all. I really am not, but, occasionally, like I need something. So, that's what I've tended to do. Another thing you can do is you can have things shipped like to a post office, general delivery. So like, when I was in Vernal, Utah, like I had, frames for my Neapolitan sampler actually shipped to the post office at Vernal, and then I like went into the post office and picked it up. So there's like ways you can figure it out. But generally I just have it sent to a friend, and then they hold on to it for me. So what have I been stitching? Well, before I left for London, I was completely caught up on the Witchy Stitcher Supernatural Stitch Along. So this was where I got to, and I had it caught up, except for, of course, I haven't done the full frame. I'm doing the frame as I go. The way this was, originally this pattern was released as like, you got the whole frame, and then she gave you a month, and then she started releasing like sections. I didn't feel like I would want to stitch the whole frame, so I've just been like stitching it as I go. But I was all caught up. But unfortunately, while I was in the UK and Ireland, 3 creatures were released. And then since I've been home, I think 2 more have been released. So I think I'm like 5 behind now. At least I'm definitely 4, but I think I might be 5 behind. They don't take very long. Like each one takes me 2 days max. Some like this one, I think I got done in 1 day. You know, this one took me 2, so they don't take more than that. But I just have not had a chance to sit down and get back to work on this one. And I hope I don't plan to abandon it. I don't know how quickly I can get caught up, but I don't plan to like just stop. I hope to get back to it. It does stitch pretty quick if I can just get the time. So this is a 40 count color in cotton in the color Sweet Tea, and I'm using the called for DMC almost exclusively. I think the only time I didn't was on the mermaid. I changed her skin, but otherwise I think I've used just the DMC. I love the Witchy Stitcher so much. I am a Patreon or a patron of her Patreon. It is such a great value. I really recommend her Patreon if you like her patterns like I do. Her every month she releases like a free pattern. I think this month she released like 3 because it's October, it's Halloween, it's like, you know, the most wonderful time of the year. So she treated us with some extra patterns, but the patterns have been so good. They've been awesome. So definitely check it out. It's not very expensive. I want to say I'm in the tier that's like $7 or $8 a month, and that pattern is worth it. So you know, check it out. All right. So what I have been stitching on like almost exclusively is my next reproduction sampler. And I am like rounding the corner on a finish. And, I didn't take it with me to Europe, like obviously, but, when I got back to work on this. So I've been working really hard on this, and that's why I haven't been able to get back to Supernatural. But I'm not going to show you the whole thing. It's in the Q-Snap, but I'll give you like a little sneak peek of this sampler. I'm so excited about this sampler. This is Fox and Rabbit 40 count linen in the color Up in the Attic, and I think it's showing up very true right now. At least when I look in the mirror, it looks right to me. It is beautiful, and I'm stitching with Classic Colorworks. My other samplers have been with DMC, but this one I'm doing with Classic Colorworks, but there will be a DMC version as well. And I'm so excited. This is coming out so beautiful, and I cannot wait to get this finished and show you all, and I hope to be doing that very soon. When I am uploading this video, I'm getting right back to work on this one, and I'm hoping to get a lot of work on that. All right, so when I was in London, I bought some cross stitch, and I've actually started one of them. So I'm gonna just show you all the things I bought cross stitch wise, and then show you what I'm working on. So, all right, so my first stop in London, and by the way, if you've watched the travel vlogs, like some of this you may have seen already, but I'll keep it brief. But anyway, we landed in London, and the lady sitting next to us like turned on her phone and started getting her text, and she was like, "Oh no, my brother texted me like the Queen's not doing well." And it was, I think it was like 1 p.m. in the UK, something like that. And she was like, "Oh no, if she dies, like they're gonna shut the whole country down." So we were like, "Oh, great." Well, as you all probably know, she did die. She died that night. So I think she died that afternoon. They announced it at 6 p.m. in London. That she was dead. So as it turns out, it did not affect our trip that much. Everything closed down that was like affiliated with the royal house, of course. So the palace is all closed for tours, like things like that. But I was afraid everything, like the museums, the shops, like everything was going to close, and that was not the case. It was only like the royal residences and like societies and things like that closed down for like the full mourning period. Otherwise, everything stayed open. And then on the actual day of her funeral, everything was closed that day. So it really didn't impact our trip too much. We did travel by train to Edinburgh the day that they were moving her body from Edinburgh to the airport to go back to London. And so it affected us a little bit because roads were closed and like buses weren't running. But it wasn't a big deal. So anyway, all that to say, we landed in London, walked around, you know, got some food. And then the next day I went to the Victoria and Albert Museum, and I was so glad that they weren't closed, because that was just like my #1 place I wanted to go in London. So the Victoria and Albert Museum was having a Beatrix Potter exhibition. And so they did have the Beatrix Potter sampler, which you can buy the actual chart. Like the sampler has been reproduced. I think it was was it needleprint or needlework press? Something, needleprint designs maybe? Anyway, years ago, they had reproduced this sampler. Well, now Stitchybox has the rights. So you can actually buy a PDF of the sampler from Stitchybox. So I'll insert a picture if I remember. But I actually got to see it in person. I might even insert the video because it's a really short clip. So you can just see like what it looks like, you know, sort of in person for me, not for you. So anyway, I am going to stitch that as soon as I can. I have to get this sampler done. I have some stuff I got to do, but as soon as I can, I am going to start that sampler, and I'm very excited about it. So now the story about that sampler, Beatrix Potter did not stitch it herself. It was a gift from a friend. They don't really know who stitched it or when. It was just in her house. Like it was on her wall. But nobody knows, like, I think it's like LB or something as the initials, and like no one knows who that is. So she did not stitch it herself, but she owned it. She displayed it in her home, and it is part of her personal effects, and it was at this exhibit. So it was very amazing to see that in person. I'm so excited. But Victoria and Albert Museum actually has some cross stitch kits. So I got a couple. It was really hard not to buy them all. So they had several of these big kits, and these, you know, these are basically like Hades. These are huge full coverage. They did have it. Coincidentally, I saw the Van Gogh sunflowers painting. It was just in the news a couple days ago because climate activists threw tomato soup on it. However, it does have it has a glass protection, like a glass covering, so it wasn't damaged. But I saw that painting, and they actually had a kit of that painting. But I went with this one. I liked the colors in this one. So the kit is DMC and like 16 count Aida. So I got this one, and then I got Monet Water Lily Pond. These were actually on display at the museum, and then they had a few others, and I was so tempted. But I held back, and I just got these two. I think there were 5 of them. I wanted to get all of them. And then I got these little bookmark kits, which are also the same company, DMC, but just more manageable sizes. So This is a William Morris. This is Strawberry Thief. I want to make sure I'm holding it the right way. So these are like tapestries in the collection at the museum. And this one's called Bird and Berry by CFA Voicey. So I actually started this one because after we got back from the UK, like we were pretty spent, but we had to fly out like 2 days later to Sacramento for a wedding, which was beautiful. It's a wonderful, wonderful wedding. But I wanted some cross stitch to take with me for the plane and the couple days we were going to be there. But I didn't want anything like too complex. And I thought this one would be great because it's just like, it's all cream fill in. Like once you get these birds and vines outlined, it's not a lot of confetti. And that, it was honestly like a perfect choice. It's, it was a great travel project, and I got all this done in like 4 days. So I just have a little bit of like ecru fill in right here, and then a little bit right here, and I'll be halfway done. So that was a nice stitch. Now that you can see, this other one is very much confetti, like a lot. I didn't want to mess with all that, so I went with the simpler one. This is going to be a big bookmark. I don't know if you can tell, like on your end, like this will be a large bookmark. But that was my cross stitch that I got. So just those 4 things. And it's kind of interesting because I got those on the first like full day we were there. And I never saw cross stitch at any of the other museums. Like it was just, that was the only one. So I bought it all at the beginning, and then I didn't really see any more after that. All right, so my next work in progress was an oldie that I'd been wanting to get back to. So Heather, Link is my homeboy, had a birthday last Monday, the 10th of October. And she wanted people to work on old stitch-alongs, Sal's, for her birthday. And I, of course, had several to choose from. And then Heather herself said she was going to be working on Ingleside Imaginarium. Kaluna Brightburn's Catalog for Witches Familiars. This was such a great stitch along. I unfortunately got 5 of them done and then kind of lost steam. But it was a really wonderful pattern. I love this design. I think Brittany is so talented with what she can do with just a couple of colors. I think it's 2 shades of gray, black, and then 2 shades of blue and 1 shade of gold. It's like 5 colors, and she gets a lot in there with just that. So anyway, I pulled this out and just worked on it for 1 day. And this is what I did. So this is a 40 count mystery linen. That was gifted to me from a friend. But what I already had done were the 5 familiars. And so what I did this round was I did not have the frame done. So oops, it's not showing all. I had this side done and the top, but I didn't have this side or any of this. So I did all the frame, and then I started in on the dog. I did not get him done, but I got a good start. And I probably could have finished him if I had kept going, but I needed to work on something else. So I just couldn't do it. But it was good to get back to this. Again, such a great design. I mean, look at look how much detail we've got on these creatures with just a few colors. And these are, the only change I made was for the serpent. I thought it would be fun to make the crystals sparkle, so I just used some Krynic in there. It looks really cool too. Love that. Hopefully I'll get back to that. It was already on my list to bring with me on the next leg of my trip, which I am doing. And that's why I had so I could grab it randomly that day. All right, and then my last stitching project to show you. I took a break and started on the new Dark Queen of the Seas. No, not of the Seas. Oh God, Dark Queen of the Woods. So the last queen was Dark Queen of the Seas, which I have finished and framed. And this one is Dark Queen of the Woods. This is a series. I don't know the next ones. I don't know. I think we could do earth, air, fire. Like I'm not sure what else they're gonna do, but I know they're gonna be fabulous. So part one of this released like the week before we were traveling, and I wasn't gonna be able to get to it. And then we got back and we were trying to like settle back in, and then part two came out, and I was like, I want to start it so bad, but I just don't have time. And then finally I just like broke down and said, I'm starting it. I don't care. So I took a break from my sampler that I've been stitching, and I said, I'm just gonna like do like 2 days on the new Dark Queen. But I could not stop. She is so fun to stitch. I couldn't stop. So I just stitched all of part one and all of part two. So let me show you. So this is a 28 count Monaco that I dyed myself. And I was going for like a forest look. Like I wanted it to kind of look like the shadows that you see on the ground, like as the sunlight filters in through the leaves. And I think I nailed it. What I didn't realize was how very close I was getting to the actual green in the pattern. So I know this is blending in, but don't worry, because I think there'll be some stuff like around her and it won't totally blend in when it's all said and done. So part one and part two, the only thing I don't have is there is some yellow Krynic here in these empty stripes here. There is, or it's not Krynic, it's Petite Treasure Braid, but there's a yellow sparkle floss for that, and I don't have it. So I did have to leave that unfinished, but I got everything else done. So like I said, this was like comfort stitching for me. I just was absolutely loving it. The only part I did not like stitching was this big swath of 3857 here. That is a big old chunk. Did not like that. But once I got past that, I loved stitching this part right up in here, because you could just like kind of outline it and then just fill it in. But it wasn't too much. Like this was too much fill in for me. It wasn't hard. I just was like, oh my God, I'm never gonna be done. But then I did. Then I was. And it looks so good. And I love it. And Erin at Autumn Lane Stitchery is just so talented. So I'm caught up. The next part comes out November 1st. I cannot wait to see how this Dark Queen will unfold. I've got some ideas and I just cannot wait. Cannot wait to see more. Hopefully I'll be able to stay caught up. It definitely, I feel like I can now that I've got all of this done. I hope then I can catch up, I am caught up. So I hope I can just stay on top of each release. So it comes out the first of every month. So you have a month to stitch, that section. All right. So that was, all of my stitching. I did get just a couple of things. Well, I'm not showing you like all the haul that I've had over the last couple months, but just a couple things. While I was back in Colorado, I stopped at Sherry at Colorado Cross Stitcher. I stopped at her shop, and I was very restrained. I was looking for floss for my sampler, which I found. And then I had been looking for the Barn Owl from Cottage Garden Samplings, A Year in the Woods number 8. And I had been looking at it. The shops in Utah didn't have it, but Sherry did. So I grabbed that. I don't know when I'm going to stitch it, but I needed it. And then I grabbed a couple of linens from Fox and Rabbit. Now, Karen and Brent at Fox and Rabbit have been so generous with me, and they have actually sent me several of their linens to use for model stitching. Like I asked them if I could, like if they had some colors that they would recommend, and then they sent me some. So they've been like amazing. Oh, I love them. I love them so much. Anyway, so they've already like gifted me linen to use for model stitching, but I still bought some at Sherry's shop because I just wanted to. So I bought a fat quarter of hog bristle because I think it's like the most beautiful linen that, oh, I don't know if it's going to show up right. Oh, I think that might be pretty good. It's just a beautiful warm yellow, gold, a warm gold neutral. And it's just so pretty, and I love it. And I just needed a piece of it like to have in stash for, you know, oh, I think I was showing you I don't know if I was showing you the right side. I think this side's more modeled. Anyway, so I just bought a piece of 40 count hog bristle just to have. And then I bought a 32 count eucalyptus again, just because it's so pretty. It's just so pretty. It's a fat eighth, and I don't have anything in mind for it exactly, but I just, yeah, well, when I bought it, I didn't have anything in mind. I just thought it was really pretty, and it is, right? It's gorgeous. But then Jacob at Modern Folk Embroidery, he released this pattern, and I was like, oh my God, that looks like the piece of eucalyptus I just bought. So I might be using this for that. So the pattern is called Mother Shipton, and there was a whole story about that. So when I was in the UK, Jacob had reached out and said, I'm actually going to be visiting. I'm coming into London, you know, this day. And I was like, I'm leaving London that morning. Like we were ships passing in the night. We missed each other by like an hour. We were both coming. I was leaving at King's Cross station and he was coming in, but I left like an hour before his train got in. So we did not get to meet up, but I'm so glad that we chatted, because I said, you know, I'm so sorry I'm leaving for York that morning. And he said, oh, you know, I used to live in York. And I was like, oh my gosh, I do remember that now that you say that. And he's like, well, you know, do you want some recommendations on things to do? And I was like, yes, please. So Jacob gave me some fantastic recommendations for my time in York. And he sent me he told me about an antique shop, and he said they have samplers there, you know, so if you're, you know, you want to go look. And I actually found a sampler at that shop, and I don't think I would have found that shop without him telling me about it. So like, you know, I would have never known. And I'm so excited about the sampler that I found. I'm so excited about it. That will be an upcoming release for sure. And I'll give you more of the story then, but it was just so wonderful that he told me about this place. And anyway, all of that to say, while we were chatting, he said, if you have time, you should really visit this nearby town. Unfortunately, I did not have time, but he said, you know, I've been working on this pattern based on a woman who lived there. She has a really cool story, and he said, you know, I should get back to that and finish it. And so I think he gave me inspiration, and I think I gave him a little inspiration. And so he finished this pattern, Mother Shipton, and then sent it to me. So that's a new release from Modern Folk Embroidery, but I just so happen to have, I think, the perfect linen to stitch that. So, all right. So last little bit of haul, just a couple things. So, do y'all watch Megan the Wide-Eyed Stitcher? Because you should. You should, because her taste is just impeccable. Like everything she stitches is so beautiful. She's like, does like, she, even stuff she's not stitching, like she does, like some like wool felt or like some, like kind of more craft stuff. And it's just like always so good. And she like has really good, like, places on Etsy where she like buys decor and stuff. So anyway, you should definitely watch Megan because she stitches really beautiful stuff and she finishes a lot of things. So she's always got like beautiful framed finishes, and I just love her and I love everything she does. And she just finished Cathedral Woods Goddess from Mirabilia. And I had grabbed that from my whip pile to bring with me on this leg of the trip because I had just like, for months now, I've been like, I really want to stitch on her. And so I had already grabbed her, and then I watched Megan's video and she finished her. And so now I like really want to get back to that. And her finish was just like stunning. So anyway, all that to say, I'm watching Megan, which I'll link her below so you can like make sure you go check her out if you don't already like watch her. And she showed this and I was like, I love that. So it's Sheepish Designs American Beauty. And this is an old pattern. I think she said it was from like 2000 or 2006. Like it's an older design, but it's so pretty. It is so pretty. And so I paused the video and went and looked it up in Kitten Stitcher. Teresa at kittenstitcher.com has this pattern, and I want to say it was like $8, very affordable. So I found it and I was like, well, I can't just get that. Like I have to get more than that. Like I can just get one part, but you know, I'm trying to be good and save money. And, but I realized I needed some floss for my Beatrix Potter sampler. So I took the opportunity to buy some floss from Teresa at Kitten Stitcher. So I got Floramel from Gloriana. So I've used Gloriana silks before and they're wonderful. I have not used Floramel. I'm not sure how it's so different from the silk they usually use, other than I know it's 7 strands instead of 6. It seems like it might be a little plumper. So I bought Floramel in Havana Brown to use for my Beatrix Potter sampler. So I didn't want, so the original is like a cocoa brown, and I didn't want just like a straight brown. So this one's like brown with some blue gray. I think it's so pretty. Don't know how, I feel like it might be showing up a little cool on your end, but I think we're pretty close. But it's just a subtle variegation, but just, I think it's beautiful. And Teresa had really good item photos, because this really looks like the photo on her website. You know, you never know. You're like, oh, I love the way it looks on that item description, but then sometimes you get it and you're like, it's not quite what that was. But this one was like spot on. So Teresa took really good product photos of that. Anyway, that's what I got from Kitten Stitcher. So, okay, so that's all the stitching. It's all the stitching. I can't see how, are we at an hour? I think we are. Okay. All right. So that's all of my stitchy stuff. I'm going to talk about books, but of course, like I have a million books. So I'm going to do like rapid fire book talk, because there's too many. There's too many to really, go into detail. So, but I've been reading a lot because I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks, and then I also read some physical books, but I've been less of that lately. I've mostly just been listening to audiobooks. And if you can like sit and really like get into it, like you can finish an audiobook in like 2 days. So I've also of course been reading on my Kindle, but let me talk to you about some books I've read, but we're going to talk about them briefly. And some of these I read like over a month ago, so things could be a little hazy, so forgive me for that. All right. So I finally read Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This book you know, took book talk TikTok by storm like over a year ago. And everyone's been like freaking out about this book. And I've had it for probably over a year, and I finally read it. So Katie Robert writes like dark romance. So or maybe, is it dark romance or is it just really like steamy, spicy romance? Either way, like she writes smutty romance. So we're talking like these are not like traditionally published novels, although her self-published book got so popular and did so well that she did get picked up by a publisher who is releasing these books like as mass release. But this isn't like your Hallmark romance. She writes you know, very, very like very very smutty romance. And she's into like some of the darker stuff. Like she does like kinky stuff. She does like BDSM, like couples that play with other couples or other partners. Like it's not vanilla. So anyway, all that to say, Neon Gods is a Hades and Persephone inspired, or no, it's not inspired. Like the characters are actually called Hades and Persephone. It is a Hades and Persephone retelling. But it's interesting because it's set in modern day. So in this world, the gods are actually like people who have been like elected or inherited their position, but they're not necessarily like magical. Or at least I don't think so. I don't think any of them actually had any like powers. So it's almost like, you know, they're like crime boss kind of like power, but they're not magical. So anyway, it's Hades and Persephone, and they, you know, whatever. You know what? I liked it. I've heard mixed things. Like some people really, really love this book, and other people are like, that was total junk. So like I kind of fell in the middle. Like I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Like I had a good time. I had pretty low expectations, and you know, I thought it was perfectly fine. Like I've read another book by Katie Robert, which was her Jafar and Jasmine retelling. I think it was called Desperate Measures. And I kind of felt the same about that. Like it was fun. It's readable. I read this so fast. Like it's super easy to read, like compulsively, like page turner. But there's not a lot of depth there. It's just, you know, it's like cake. It's just fun. So if you're looking for a real smutty, dark romance, like go for it. It's a good time. I liked it just fine. And then I read Sandman, which is a graphic novel from Neil Gaiman, and it was it's a many volumes, but I read volume 1, and I read it because I wanted to check out the show. And it was fine. I don't read graphic novels. I don't have anything against them. It's just not like my thing. But I did enjoy it. It was very convoluted and difficult to follow, and I feel like it's one of those things where, you know, you keep going and things start to kind of crystallize and become, you know, more clear, and then maybe like, you know, you get into the world and then you reread it and things start to make more sense. So I'll admit, like for half of it I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I just kept going, and I feel like I followed along okay. It was fine. It was pretty good, I guess. I'm still excited to see the show. I don't feel like I need to keep going with the novels. But I don't think there's anything wrong with them. Like I can see why they're very popular and why people love them. And I especially think, you know, 20 years ago, or maybe it was even 30 years ago when this came out, like it was probably very groundbreaking and very exciting. And fresh. And that's kind of how I felt about American Gods too when I read it. Like very good, but not like wow. And a lot of people put that book on like the pedestal of like, this is the best book ever. And I'm like, oh, it was pretty good. Like I don't know if it was that good, but I think at the time it was like kind of a genre bending, like really novel. Whereas now it's been done over and over again. People have imitated it. It doesn't feel as special to me. And maybe that's the same thing that's happened here. But very good, very good. And I do like Neil Gaiman. Like I've read a lot of, not all, but a lot. And I loved Good Omens, and I loved was it the house at the end of the lane, or the something with the ocean or something. I love that one too. I really liked Neverwhere. And I really like Stardust. American Gods is actually like probably like his most critically acclaimed, but like my probably least favorite. Anyway, all that to say, whatever. Neil Gaiman's cool, whatever. Sandman was fine. Okay, so then I reread Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo because she is finally releasing the sequel. It's called Hellbent, and I think it's coming out very soon. I think maybe in November. So this was her follow-up after she was done with the Shadow and Bone, Six of Crows, with that world, with the Grisha verse. This was like her next like project. So those books are young adult. Ninth House is an adult. It's a dark academia. It's set at Yale and involves the secret societies of Yale. There's fantastical elements though. There's some magic and some like people who can see ghosts and who can communicate with the dead. So it's like a dark, I don't know if I would call it a fantasy. It doesn't feel like a fantasy novel. But there are like fantastical elements to it. So I love Leigh Bardugo. I think she's such a great writer, and I really enjoyed Ninth House the first time I read it, but it was hard to follow. There's a lot of time jumps back and forth, and it's very tricky. So this time I listened to it on audio, and I definitely had a better experience because I kind of like, I couldn't remember everything that happened, but like I remembered enough, and I was just able to follow along a lot easier this time. But I did really like it the first time I read it too. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. But I understand why people do not like it. And it's a very divisive book. Some people really, really liked it, and some people just absolutely hated it and thought it was just total trash. And I don't agree, but I see why. It's a lot of like info dumping. It's dark, it's gritty. The main character isn't particularly likable. There are really dark themes. And so like, I understand why some people maybe didn't enjoy it or just felt like it was a little too bogged down, but I thought it was really great. And I really still loved it on reread, and I'm really excited for the second book. And it kind of scratched that dark academia itch that I always get every year in September. So, all right. So while I was in London, I thought, what a great time to start Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This book has been on my to be read, my TBR, for a really long time. And I was in London, and I thought, why not? And it was great. So it's a male romance, and it's set in London primarily. So it is a contemporary romance, and Alexis Hall has written also some historical romance as well. But this one is a contemporary romance, and I loved it. He writes like, he's so funny and witty. Like I always like just laugh out loud during his books. And, it was just really cute and sweet. It was such a great, like, cute little romance, and I really enjoyed it. So this book got a lot of hype when it first came out. A lot of good reviews, and I totally agree. It's great. There's a follow-up called Husband Material, I think, is what it's called, but I haven't read that one yet, but I want to. So I loved it. All right. So then I decided this time of year, I also get in like this mood for Twilight. Now I cannot go into my extremely complicated relationship and thoughts about Twilight. I know Twilight is trash. It is total trash. I cannot help but love it. I just can't. So I've been feeling very nostalgic for Twilight lately. Again, I could go on and on and on. I'm not going to. all this to say, I decided to reread Twilight, but I decided let's do it audio this time. Like I've read the books the regular way. So I got the audio from my library. So I've done Twilight and New Moon. I'm waiting on Eclipse to come in from the wait list at the library. I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm just going to tell you, I read those. Okay. I read those and, they're just about how I remembered. Yeah. Okay. So then I read, Culty from Mariana Zapata. So I am working my way through Mariana Zapata books. They're all on, not all, but almost all on Kindle Unlimited. So she writes romance, but her romance is very like slow burn. Like her characters usually don't get together until like the very end. But you get all of this like tension and buildup, and she does such a great job of like just really, you get to like really live with her characters. And her books are long. They're like 800 pages usually. But I for some reason I can read them so fast. Like even though they're really long, I read them in like 3 days. Like I read them much quicker than I read other Kindle Unlimited books. So you can just like blow through them. And they are, I have loved like every single book I've read from her. So I read Culty, which is about a women's professional soccer player in the United States. And she's like, I don't know, like 26 or so. And she's really great. She's the star of her team, but she needs to like take her career to the next level. And she's not quite reaching like her full potential. And Culty is a retired soccer player, and he's like superstar. He's like David Beckham level. Like he's a world, like known worldwide. He's like a, you know, he is a superstar, but he's retired. So I think he's like 39 or 40. So he's a little older, but he's just retired, and he's like trying to figure out what to do next. And he goes to like help coach Saul, her name is Saul. He goes to like help coach her team. So he helps her, he starts pushing her to like reach her potential. And then like they fall in love. Like that's not a spoiler, like that's what happens. Okay. But Mariana Zapata is just, I really, really love her writing. And I think she's not for everyone. It's like you either love her or you don't, but I really love her. I've loved every single thing I've read from her. Like 5-star, like loved. But I do notice like a pattern. So she tends to write, her female characters are wonderful. But her male characters are usually total assholes. And, one thing I've noticed that she doesn't always do is like, she doesn't have that moment of like groveling where they're like, here's why I was such a jerk to you. And I feel horrible about it. I'm so sorry. Like she doesn't actually have them do that. And I like a good grovel in a romance when someone's done wrong. But she doesn't always do that. Like I noticed in The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, like you don't get that moment. But I feel like with Culty, like she did a little bit better job of him, like kind of explaining why he's been a jerk and like making up for it. So this is definitely one of her more beloved books, and I see why. It was so good. It was so good. I loved it. So then I read, because I was in Oxford, in England, I read La Belle Sauvage, which is the Book of Dust from Philip Pullman. So this was like his follow-up after he had done his Dark Materials, which was The Golden Compass, The Amber Spyglass, and The Subtle Knife. I got those out of order. But anyway, after he had done that trilogy, which is like one of my all-time favorites, he went back into that world, and he actually gave us kind of a prequel. So the Book of Dust, the first one, La Belle Sauvage, is about when Lyra is a baby. So Lyra is the main character in his Dark Materials. So this is about Lyra as a couple of months old, like as a baby, and how she ended up in Oxford and how she ended up at Jordan College as a ward of the college. So you get like this backstory about what happened with that. So Philip Pullman is such a great writer. I listened to this on audiobook. The narrator was great. It did not live up to like Golden Compass levels for me, but it was great. It wasn't like all-time favorite. Like it didn't quite reach that level, but it was a very solid read. So very good book. And I guess I would call that young adult. I would classify that as like a young adult fantasy. All right, low battery warning, but it's fine because we're wrapping this up right now anyway. Okay. So then I read The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. Now this is another Kindle Unlimited like smutty romance. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a dark romance like the way like Neon Gods would be. But it's just like it's a contemporary romance, but you know, spicy. And it's a very popular series. It's called The Dreamland Billionaires, and there's 3 books, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to read the next 2. I actually went in with, you know, pretty low expectations, but like it was really good. I actually really liked it. So just your, you know, run-of-the-mill Kindle Unlimited smutty romance, but like top notch. So it features basically Dreamland. Dreamland is like Disney, like Disneyland. So it's a big theme park. They make billions of dollars. Like they're doing great. But turns out maybe the workers are not being treated like as well as they could be. And so there are some there are 3 sons who are set to inherit the company, but they have to meet some requirements before they can inherit. And so the son in this first novel is working as like an acting director of Dreamland, and his grandfather wants him to kind of like find his creative passion again before he can inherit his shares. And so he has to present to a board of directors, like he has to present a plan for like his vision, and they have to approve it. And if they do that, then he will inherit his shares. But he meets a woman who is working at the park, and she like drunkenly submits a proposal, like because all the employees, there's like a forum where the employees can submit like their feedback and their proposals, and she like drunkenly goes on like a rant about like what's wrong with Dreamland, and he sees it, and he's like, she could be like the key, because like he knows he needs like a radical overhaul to like impress the board. And so he starts working with her, but there's like, you know, this like a little bit of like a hidden identity, and like she doesn't know that he might be using her, and like he's falling for her as he's possibly using her, and it's, you know, it gets a little messy. And also like he's got some emotional trauma he needs to work through, and he won't like open his heart to love because of the trauma. So it's them working through that. So I really, really liked it. Then I completed my reread of the Throne of Glass series from Sarah J. Maas. The last book was Kingdom of Ash, and I had reread like all 7 books before that. These are long, long books, and I've been rereading them as audiobooks. The audiobooks are wonderful. But I kept putting off the Kingdom of Ash because I knew like the emotional damage of this book. Because when I originally read it, I cried so hard, like I was in pain. It's just so emotional, and it's not even just like, oh, because someone dies. I mean, that is some of it, but it's like even just like the emotional trauma of like what comes after, and even like the uplifting, like the heart-wrenching like moments of like the positive, like even like just the sweet like love that develops between characters. Like I just was a freaking mess, and so I put it off for months because I wasn't ready. Like I needed to build up to it. So I finally reread the last book and like sobbed during the last 20% again, but it's so good. So it's like an epic fantasy series. It sometimes gets classified as young adult, but it's not, it's adult. The main character, I think for like a brief flash of the series, she's like 16, but then when the series like really starts, she's like 18, 19. And, you know, there's sexy times and all that stuff in it. So, but I love it. It's just like, the author, she builds such like a detailed world, and it just builds and builds. So the first book's like pretty straightforward, and then like it just starts, she starts adding characters and like plot lines, and then by like the middle of this series, like there's so much detail and it's so cool to see. And then by the end, like just all of it coming together, and it's just very, very satisfying. So if you're looking for a good like fantasy series, like it's wildly popular, and I think it's wonderful. I loved my reread of that. So then the very last book I'm talking to you about is another reread. This time of year I get like this. I just want to like, I want those comfort reads. So I start like rereading old things. So I had been meaning for like over a year, I've been like, I want to reread the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning. I've read the whole series like years ago, and then as like new books have come out, I've read those. But I was in, well, and part of why I've been wanting to reread it, but so it's set in Dublin. So when I was in Dublin, I was like, I'm gonna reread this. So the first book is called Dark Fever. So this is an urban like paranormal fantasy. So it features the main character Michaela Lane. She goes by Mac, and she is living her life in Georgia. Everything's great. Her sister is studying abroad in Dublin and ends up being murdered, and nobody like cares or seems to care or want to solve it. So Mac like hops on a plane and goes to Dublin, and she's like, I'm gonna see if I can figure out what happened to my sister. And turns out there are some supernatural creatures in Dublin. So basically the Fae, the seelie and unseelie like fairy realm is starting to like bleed into and like encroach into Dublin, and she gets wrapped up in this world, and she finds out like she has some hidden past that she didn't know about, and she has some talent in combating the Fae that she was completely unaware of until she ended up in Dublin and like things started to happen. So this series, the first book is just like kind of getting you introduced into the world. There's not much at all that you really find out in the first book, but then like the books build and build and build and become like pretty epic fantasy. So I still loved the first book on reread, but I'm really excited to like get into like the meat of the series, because again, in the first book, you don't like, not much happens, like really very little happens. And then there's like, you know, this really wild romance that happens with Mac and another character, but like in the first book, they don't even like nothing, like there's nothing really. It's just like hinted at a little bit, like there's an attraction, but they don't like, you know, they're not really like into each other yet. So, I'm excited to see all that happen. And my favorite character, she comes in later. And I cannot wait for her because she's the best. Danny Omega Malley. Anyway, that's it. All right. Sorry, it was a long one, but it's been a while. So if you watched this far, thank you so much. And I will see you next time.